We just had an election and there's a lot of things that are changing. And the question is that will tariffs take away our cheap lithium iron phosphate batteries that we currently can get right now? There has been lots of talk during the election process and since the election about tariffs, and primarily tariffs on China. And to be honest, we don't really know for sure what is going to happen with regards to tariffs. But let's dig into this a little bit, and I'll try to avoid any partisan politics on the matter and just stick to the facts. During the campaign, President-elect Trump had proposed a 100% tariff on goods coming from China. As you probably know, an incredible amount of goods currently come from China to the US. And one of them is our lithium batteries that have come down in price so much over the last year. But first, what is a tariff? A tariff is a tax imposed by a government on goods and services imported from other countries that serves to increase the price and make imports less desirable, or at least less competitive versus domestic goods and services. That's what a tariff is. And who benefits from a tariff? The importing countries usually benefit from a tariff. In this case, the US would benefit from a tariff, as they are the ones imposing the tariff and collecting the revenue. Domestic businesses also benefit from tariffs because the tariffs make their goods cheaper than imported goods, hence driving up the demand for their products. So how does that apply to lithium batteries? Looking specifically at the lithium batteries that many of us are using or considering using for our boats, for trolling motors, electric outboard motors, and as house batteries. A few years ago, lithium iron phosphate batteries were very expensive because it was a new technology that required new manufacturing techniques, as well as rare materials and unique manufacturing challenges. Like anything that society has mass-produced over time, efficiencies in the manufacturing process have resulted in a much better and cheaper product than what originally hit the market, like this one here. As a result, in 2024, we now have lithium or lithium iron phosphate LiFePo4 batteries that are very similar in price to their lead acid counterparts, with significant benefits over those lead acid counterparts by being lighter, longer lasting, and better. And the reality is that it seems like every one of these batteries is actually made in China. And it can be concerning for people when 100% of a market segment comes from one particular source, in this case, China. This is also true of products that are only produced in one facility. If a hurricane comes along and knocks out production for weeks and/or months, that halt in production can result in supply chain problems because everything came from one place. And we've seen that happen with our recent hurricanes. And of course, there's much more to all of this when it comes to lithium batteries, because our environmental regulations actually created an environment where other countries are better positioned to be able to produce the products that consumers want versus US production. What does that have to do with tariffs? If products like lithium iron phosphate batteries are produced entirely in China and the incoming administration imposes a 100% tariff, then the reality for consumers is that the prices will increase. And that increase might be close to 100%. But as I said, there's no guarantee that will happen, and it might not be as bad as we think. We have been in similar situations in the past, and sometimes restrictions have had some positive long-term results. For example, back in the late 1970s, when Japanese cars were starting to take a significant share of US car sales, many trade restrictions were put in place to limit the amount of Japanese cars coming to the US. Over time, Japanese manufacturers started producing manufacturing facilities in the US to assemble their cars. In addition, these factories started sourcing many of their components from US suppliers. One scenario that could happen is companies who source their core components from China, but actually assemble their batteries in the US, would only see an increase in those core components, meaning they will be able to offer US assembled batteries more competitively than batteries entirely produced in China. And perhaps as new battery technology comes to market and new sources for core battery components come online, we might be able to source the materials for batteries from other places, benefiting the consumer by either cheaper or better batteries. Obviously, there's no crystal ball. And if you're sitting on the fence about whether or not to get a lithium iron phosphate battery, for your boat or whatever, now might be a really good time to get off the fence and make that purchase, because the prices are lower than they ever have been. The new administration hasn't come into power yet, and so tariffs, if they are going to be put in place, haven't been put in place yet. And I also have discount codes in my video description down below if you're looking to buy one of those types of batteries. And who knows, maybe there'll be no additional tariffs, and maybe a wider variety of good products will start to come to market from a variety of sources. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there in the water.